I feel like a child on Christmas. Running down the stairs to see the Stanley Cup Finals are about to get underway brings me joy. The NHL playoffs are always a gauntlet. A bit more predictable this time around, but it's not for lack of trying. 14 teams have come up short in this quest. May we mourn their failed runs. The sounds you're hearing right now are at least 30 other NHL fan bases celebrating Vegas' demise. Yes, the alleged cheatingest hockey team in the West is out of the playoffs. And there's little for them to be ashamed of. They went toe-to-toe with a literal Stanley Cup favorite in a series that was conference finals caliber. I'm dead serious when I say this series came down to literal inches. Yet I still feel like the Knights will be kicking themselves over the summer. When you have a 2-game-to-none series lead like they did, you have to finish off your opponent. It was a hit they couldn't circumvent. Peter DeBoer gets his revenge against the team that cut off his head. Know why the regular season matters? Because if you struggle for long stretches, you get run over by a wagon. That wagon will also probably run over Chandler Stevenson and Marchessault this offseason. Bloodlust for glory never ends. So which goalie are we pulling, Winnipeg? Can we just pull the entire damn team? Weren't you guys supposed to be good? What the fuck was that supposed to be? It's one thing for part of a team to fall apart at a given moment, but the entire operation? I can't even blame Five-a-Buck for most of this. When team defense can't clear the front of the fucking net, he has no chance. The offense good for spurts, then blue screens at the worst moment. Colorado dominated barring Game 1's aberration. Pushback? What pushback? There's nothing here besides being pushed off a cliff. Rick Bowness didn't need help. He pushed himself into the comforting abyss of retirement. Worst case scenario has occurred. Why do I get the strange feeling that this starts a domino effect of the team moving? The Jets desperately needed a deep run and they failed on all counts. Yes, their owner's the richest in Canada, but with their national economy and lack of corporate funding, I cringe at the thought. There's a problem with Honda Accords. They can get you from destination to destination, but you don't want to use them in a street race. That's what happened against Vancouver. The series was ripe for the taking. Thatcher Demko was out with injury for nearly all of it. Game 4 at home with a chance to tie the series with a multi-goal lead. It was blown. Fluttered and shanked away like a Colton Sissons backhand hitting the goalpost. Brock Besser turned on the nitrous oxide and steals the win away in the night. The series ended right there. Nashville's sturdy, but they're unable to overcome such self-inflicted adversity. Agonizingly kept alive until a late goal by Pius Suter in Game 6. What you're seeing is probably the last game Jussi Saros plays in Nashville. Golden chances doinked like an empty net opportunity. Admit the horrible truth, Preds. Archer Shilovs is too good right now. So yeah, Kings, I'm not surprised by this at all. It was spotty as hell all season. Assets on the team were mercurial and were ripe to be picked apart by reality in the playoffs. That reality just happens to be the team that's defeated them in 3 of the last 4 postseasons. That ballyhoo cheat code known as the 1-3-1 don't really work when the Oilers just speed through the wall. It's kind of hard to win anything when their power play is so atrocious it can't produce anything besides wet farts. Edmonton's power play? They revealed this team to be on a hamster wheel of futility. So how the hell did they get off it? Miracle elixirs for Anjay? More 1-3-1 trapping magic? Prey Dubois plays up to his talent level? It's been proven over and over again that the Kings have become a cock team. Flash potential but never fully realize it. They're an entire franchise of Pierre-Luc Dubois. Welcome to Minnesota Wild territory. As a Penguins fan, may I welcome you to the post-cup window. You'll believe you'll still have a chance to win it all. You may even make the playoffs on more than one occasion, but you won't be a true threat to move on. Florida more than proved that in spades. Finally, revenge for the Battle of Florida on their end. Alas, the power play merchants could not truly practice their craft as Bobrovsky stole their goods on a backward save. Unable to adapt to life on the 5-on-5, a true shame. They even got Sergachev back, but it wasn't anywhere near enough. And it may not be enough to keep Steven Stamkos around. He's been pissed about his lack of extension, and his corner office on the power play may have to be relocated. Even if he leaves, he'll be back. Not for a swan song, his jersey will hang in the rafters someday. That may be all the Lightning have left at this point. Or just get Ryan McDonough back. For some reason.
They locked themselves into a series with the Boston Bruins!
Another unsurprising outcome. The Islanders were somehow still alive, and the Hurricanes took pleasure in killing them off again. Carolina was the far superior team in all aspects and merely played with them for a bit before consuming them whole. You know, make them feel good for a second or two with a 3-goal lead, then turn on the Jets and burn them like Colorado did Winnipeg in about 20 minutes. Did Lane Lambert really leave? This series proved that his spirit still lives on in this group. A stale, aging, bloated, and lethargic one that has serious questions to ask themselves over the summer. I beg Lou Lamoriello to take some fucking caffeine during the offseason. Consistently being asleep at the wheel hasn't done any major damage, but it's left them in cruise control. There's no true spark. Until that happens, there'll be easy pickings for the likes of the Canes.
Oh no.
The carrion birds will be feasting. Congratulations! Yeah, you already know the line. Let's be real, the Caps were either hilariously winning in 7 or getting swept. Aw, you have the power of friendship, Washington? The Rangers have a machine gun. Rainbows and sunshine can't stop 50 caliber bullets. Charlie Lindgren turned into a pumpkin at midnight of Game 1, and Ovi? He just went back to his early season slump. No points for a guy that carried the team doesn't seem like a positive sign. Spencer Carberry can rip him in media scrums all he wants, but the Caps just aren't good enough. Feel-good stories always end, and there usually isn't a happy ending involved. Unless you count Tom Wilson going after Adam Fox after scoring a goal. Are we sure Dale Hunter retired? The Avalanche were a holiday I dubbed them Dia de los Muertos. Fucking dead. Limp and lifeless against a team that doesn't conveniently collapse on themselves in every fashion. Now, being mauled by a Dallas machine is one thing, but this series loss was far more devastating than meets the eye. Ignore the extreme long shot of the captain coming back, that was always a fable. Another one to tell is Val Nichushkin's redemption arc. How he was renewed by the player assistance program, scoring goals left and right, a key to the future. He failed the one test he needed to pass. Minimum 6-month suspension. His days with the Avalanche and possibly the NHL itself are being ground into a fine Colombian powder. Without one of their best forwards, the Stars did the same to them. The Avs couldn't afford any more losses. The series was just insult to injury. Only more so that Matt Duchene was the one to lunge the final dagger. Good grief. It only felt like a matter of time before the cold hand of death slapped them across the face. Taking Edmonton and their terrible goaltending to the brink of despair was hilarious, but fate intervened. They're an admirable team, but had been vastly overachieving and had to face adversity after adversity. There was the issue of no Thatcher Demko since Game 1 of the Nashville series. Archer Shilov did the best damn 2010 Yaroslav Halak impression in recent memory, but this next blow was one that could not be endured. Brock Besser has blood clotting issues. It forced him out of Game 7 against the Oilers and potentially beyond. Without their best scorer, they were just no match. Fighting to the very end, but unable to overcome their adversary by the final buzzer. This was easily the best series in the playoffs, one that will be talked about for years. Sadly, a team had to lose. Despite their lack of shots on net, the Canucks deserve no scorn for their efforts. One of the greatest bounce-back seasons in recent memory. Well done, lads. I'm proud of you. Yes, I know the meme of memes, but I can't really laugh at the Bruins that hard when they simply lost to the better team. They accomplished maintaining the oldest meme in hockey, and the job was done. Their lack of center depth and four-line balance were no match for Florida. Panthers dominated those areas in spades. Even then, I can't help but feel like the Bruins screwed themselves in some regards. That double minor by Lohrei in Game 3 justified or not a death sentence with back-to-back power play goals. Then came Game 4 in that blown lead. Apparently, pushing an opponent into the goalie is completely legal. Who knew? Roll back the curtain, and the only thing holding this together was Jeremy Swayman. He's going to be an RFA this offseason and might be offer-sheeted to hell and back. What this translates to is the probable end of the two-headed monster in net. Tried to trade Allmark at the deadline, you know. This calls for a time-honored Boston tradition. Throwing trash on the ice to protest ref puck. I don't get Carolina. On paper, they should steamroll everyone in their path, dominating every statistical and analytical metric developed. Did they keep peeing down their leg in the end? After this flop, there's only confirmation that the Hurricanes are the modern San Jose Sharks. You thought the Panthers series was bad? Try losing by a goal in the first 3 games. And not just one overtime defeat, but one in double OT on top of that. But somehow that might not be the most painful thing. Try rattling off 2 straight wins and holding a 3-1 lead in Game 6. A team was on the ropes. That be Carolina. Toronto warned you about Freddie in the clutch. He laid a stinker. Someone get a shovel to shit in the crease where a goalie's supposed to be. Chris Kreider lives rent-free in their dreams. That offseason's gonna be even worse. The departing souls will be fast, and it will probably include Martin Necas. Fortunately, Brenda Moore got extended in the face of many rumors, but can you stop blowing it? Ever? Did Peter DeBoer make a pact with an unholy demon to make it to the NHL as a coach? I don't understand how this shit keeps happening with his teams regardless of how loaded and fully stocked. The only thing that makes any logical sense in my mind is that they shit the bed. Again, Dallas had Edmonton on the ropes. A 2-1 series lead. Leading 2-0 on the road in Game 4 with Oilers fans dead silent. The chance to kill them was right there. But Matthias Janmark grabbed that dagger and stabbed their neck with it. At that moment, it was almost as if the stars just vanished. Couldn't solve Edmonton's defense or trapping strategy. And with that power play destroying everything, good fucking luck. Game 6 felt like pure Dallas, being goalied by Edmonton. Edmonton! Like their arena DJ trying to troll the Oilers, they were the ones who ended up being trolled. Usually by McDavid unleashing the high-end talent. Ottinger was not at peak form and it cost them. The team itself wasn't either. Maybe Vegas and Colorado took too much out of them, but that probably explains nothing. And then I realized this may be the last game Joe Pavelski plays and I get sad. That guy deserved a cup. This is bullshit. The bitter pill of defeat. Something the Rangers have had to deal with a lot for the past 30 years. No matter valiant efforts or daring feats, it still stings when you lose to a significantly better team. Florida was probably the worst opponent New York could have gone up against. When you take their forward depth, their physicality, and pretty much everything you have amped to 11, they were lucky to even steal 2 of those games. Shesty was the only reason why this wasn't a sweep. The only other things able to stand out were Lafreniere, Barclay Goudreau shooting an ungodly percentage and Jacob Trouba's elbow. The Rags make it surprise returns in Filipino and Blake Wheeler, but like Matthew Rempe in this series, the boost was short. It was a little later than I expected, yet the President's Trophy curse lives on. Even as this run is nothing to be ashamed of, this offseason's going to be crucial. The Igor question comes into play. He'll be a UFA after next season, and extending him will be paramount. You'll probably find him hiding under the net. Like New York City, the ice has been infested with rats. This has been a relatively predictable playoff so far. Nothing entirely out of the ordinary, but there are still quality series and games throughout. I'm looking right at the Vancouver-Edmonton series. Speaking of the Oilers, I think they need to be discussed at length, don't they? I want you to think back to November. Do you remember how awful Edmonton looked? They were chaos incarnate, and I don't think even that term gives it justice. The issues that the Oilers have been fighting for years are depth, defense, and goaltending. What was killing them? The bottom 6 was a black hole. Team defense somehow even worse than that. And goaltending? If you can find anyone that could make a save, they'd take him. Jack Campbell withered into nothing. And the $25 million man was such a flop here that he was exiled to the minors and buried alive. This in years of playoff disappointment required a massive shakeup. Jay Woodcroft was set ablaze in an attempt to save the season. Sometimes there's a spark that occurs with such a move. A new voice is sometimes what a team needs. And the answer to Edmonton's woes was hiring Connor McDavid's old coach in junior. Chris Knobloch did have a quality reputation long before this. And under his stewardship, the Oilers have turned things around. They revived into the best record in hockey after the move good. But to make the cup, there were still questions that needed to be asked. Could they beat the Kings? LA had been a mercurial team all year, that wasn't surprising. Could they beat upstart Vancouver? They had been overachieving and were taken to the brink, but they survived. But could they beat Dallas? This should have been roadkill. Edmonton only sang La Bamba and the Stars turned to stone. Under the guidance of 2 men, anything and everything is possible. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They need no deep dive or in-depth profile. Their play on the ice speaks for itself. Generational talents. Future Hall of Famers. And the new wave of Oiler greatness harkening back to the days of Gretzky and Messier. 2 that allow the power play to reach heights of extreme envy. But these 2 men need a wingman. Someone to vacuum up the remnants in front of the net and finish prime chances. That man is the hard-working Zach Hyman. I thought it was an overpayment when they brought him in. He was a decent winger, but not a 50-goal scorer or anything like that. Turns out he hit that total this year. The Jinx in action. Behind him is an unsung top 6 piece that doesn't get as much attention but is still quality. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins will add strong scoring presence to any lineup. Ryan McLeod is another asset, but he's been cold in these playoffs. Warren Fogle is a heart and soul player that also makes an impact on the score sheet. Evander Kane. No, I'm not bitter about how he acted as a Shark at all. Adam Henrique went from languishing on the Ducks to getting another chance at Cup glory. Connor Brown, Matthias Janmark, Derek Ryan, Sam Carrick, and Dylan Holloway support this lineup, but we should know why they made it here. They've joined the Corey Perry Invitational. He's only made it here 4 out of the past 5 seasons. He's lost every time, but this is a chance for revenge. Defense also gets a chance at revenge. With Evan Bouchard, they have the playmaking weapon needed on the back end for years. A true offensive weapon. Someone like Matthias Ekholm added at last year's deadline makes the defense more reputable and sturdier. Darnell Nurse is here. He's been a detriment the past few months, but he still has talent and pedigree. Cody Ceci could be this year's Jack Johnson, a Stanley Cup champion. Brett Kulak and Vince Desharnais show up the third pairing, setting the stage for Stuart Skinner. Flashes of brilliance in net, especially in Game 6 against Dallas, but can be very inconsistent, even in these playoffs. It got to the point where journeyman Calvin Pickard was thrust into duty at points, and he did yeoman's work. The Oilers dancing through the raindrops, and the potential reward is great. This is the first time they've made it here since 2006. The less said about that final, the better. In their quest to achieve glory, Canada gets another shot at securing their first cup in over 30 years. They talk about national pride, but I personally don't know if anyone outside of Edmonton would be happy about it. Calgary itself would burn. Vancouver and Toronto might too. I guess the Northern Territories might celebrate. Regardless of provincial rivalries, Connor and Leon will have their first true chance at immortality. High-end talent has gotten them this far. Can it get them past their opponent? Last year was a mixed wave of emotions for the Panthers. An all-in gamble looking dire, slept on by a majority of the league in April, then shocked the world by proving to everyone that your hype was for real. Stunning foes left and right, everything clicking on all cylinders. Until it wasn't. They simply ran out of gas in the final. A great run stopped by some bad hands at the blackjack table. It was Vegas that became the envy of hockey, and all Florida could do was learn from it. They got a taste of the glories of eternity, but they just couldn't reach it. The Panthers must refortify and stay hungry. Their challenges would be greater. Elements of surprise would no longer be at their disposal. Rivals and suitors alike would be eager to cut them down in their prime. Tampa Bay had always had their number. Not this time. Boston was a team eager to undo their horrible meme team status. Wish unfulfilled. Rangers are a powerhouse of their home, featuring the best goaltending in the conference. Wrong. Florida has reigned supreme once again. The past 5 years, hockey runs through this state in the East. The world will bow at their feet, and the Panther will pounce. The Stars of last year are back and healthy for a long bout. Sam Reinhart with a career year in offensive power. Matthew Tkachuk as much of a monster as he was last playoffs. Sasha Barkov continuing to be one of the most underrated players in hockey. Carter Verhaeghe bringing it best in the clutch. Sam Bennett as a two-way pest and physical force. Anton Lundell and Ito Lostarainen are back as well, but a few new faces are here for reinforcement. First, Evan Rodriguez from Colorado. A top 6 forward who's come into his own over the past few seasons. Next, an old star of the league in Vladimir Tarasenko. He's currently a hired gun, but is still a deadly catalyst for the offensive attack. Then there's Kyle Okposo, the former captain of the Sabres, successfully reforging himself as a bottom 6 role player. Ryan Lomberg, Kevin Stenlund, Nick Cousins, and Steven Lorentz also flesh out their forward core. Defense still offers elite talents. The rise of Brendan Montour, eager to win in a contract year. One of the best waiver claims in recent memory, and Gustav Forsling, freshly extended. Aaron Ekblad alive and kicking as a sturdy piece on the back end. Dmitry Kulikov's also back with the team that drafted him. Also welcome Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the fold. He isn't what he was in Phoenix, but he's still an NHL caliber defender. And at a much more palatable cap hit. Nico Mikola's here from the Rangers, also as a defensive presence. Between the pipes, it's none other than Officer Bob on the case. Remember when Sergei was seen as an anchor contract? Good times. Now he's just robbing the opposition blind. This preview isn't as long as the Edmonton one since they've been here before. We know what this team is about. Last year needs to be avenged. A sunrise in Sunrise. The age of Florida being a downtrodden franchise that's constantly rumored for relocation has been put on hold. You know what will put an end to that? A cup of sterling silver that weighs about 35 pounds. The Prince of Wales trophy is nice, but it doesn't have finality. The once meek will inherit the earth. This will be Florida's greatest chance. A date with destiny for both them and Edmonton. Boasting hardware for the first time in franchise history, or securing a legacy for Connor and Leon. Either way, Calgary will melt into a puddle of lava. God save those poor people. What do you believe in more? The ability of high-end talent or the prowess of a well-balanced roster? That's the question. I know what Florida brings, but to me the X factors are on Edmonton. Can they get goaltending? Is Darnell Nurse going to show up? Can their depth support the franchise elite? In these playoffs, they proved that their power play is deadly and their penalty kill can shut down anyone. But what about 5-on-5? Which Stuart Skinner's going to show up? I can't answer those questions. And that's why I'm thinking Florida takes this in 6. If that pans out, Canada's gonna see another cup winner on their soil at least.